Right, I wanted to help you know how to mix your different values for your monochromatic portrait. So it looks like I'm going to work with green, my favorite color. So when you're ready to make your lightest value, you want to start with the weakest pigment. Which one's weaker, white or green? White is weaker. So I'm going to scoop some white into another spot or in the middle. Maybe I'll scoop about half of it there. It depends on how much lightest value you have to paint. Maybe you want to do a lot of it. Maybe we even want to mix this in a jar. But green is a really strong pigment, so I just need to use a little bit. So just a dot of green, and I'm going to mix it all the way in. So you don't have streaky green and white, you wanted all your light value. Well, it looks like that's pretty close to white. I can use that one for my lightest value, and all it took was a little dot. Now, if you tried to work the other way, adding white to that green, you would have a big pool of medium green because it takes a lot of white to try and change a dark pigment like green. If you're working with yellow, you might have to add more yellow to the white to get your lightest value because yellow is a weak pigment. All right, so that's how you would want to, and let me try it on my paper. You can even get some samples on a scrap piece of paper, see how they're going to look. That looks pretty good. Now I have paper towel here because I don't want to end up with watercolors. That's a different project. You know, if I'm going to mix up my darkest value, again, start with the weakest pigment. This time it's green because black is the strongest pigment of all of them that I have. So I'm going to scoop some to another spot. Maybe I'll put it here. Depends on how much of the darkest value that you need and how much you'll mix up. But again, it's super strong, so I'm just going to add a dot of black, mix it in all the way. Could use some more. And mix it till it's close to black. Keep putting a dot at a time until you're close to black, but you don't want to look the same as black. You want it to be a dark value of green. Now remember, when it's wet, like even looking at this in the camera, this looks like it's really dark. But when it's dry, it will be a little lighter. So test it out on some paper. And you can even do what I call kind of like a streak test, where you smear some of it and you can see what it will kind of dry like. And if I'm just doing 3 fit different values, then I can use green, just the pure pigment, for my medium value. But what you shouldn't do is mix black and white together to make tones for this. It's better just to do shades, mixing black for your darker values and mixing white with your pigment for your lighter values. All right. So test it out, get all the different ones, make sure they look different from each other. If you have 5 different values, make sure your third and your fourth value don't look too similar, and test it out on some scrap paper, maybe before you start painting on your final.